What is going on, you guys? It is time for a little fireside chat. Minus the fire. Um, so this past weekend, this past Saturday, my father-in-law came over, and he's kind of a social butterfly, never met a stranger. Plays poker at different buddies' houses, probably 3, 4 times a week. I'm setting the scene for y'all. I'm setting the picture. And he was like, "Hey, man," he's like, "I was at this lady's house this weekend playing some poker, and she was telling me that her parents owned the memorabilia shop in the area." And so I told him, "Well, I've been stationed in this area in and out 4 or 5 different times since 2002, and the only memorabilia shop at the time is still here. They just don't sell sports cards or anything sports related anymore. It's a comic book shop." And I'm like, "So I don't know what you're talking about." And he's like, "Well, I don't know either. I'm just telling you what she said." And her parents closed the doors in the late 90s, early 2000s. And she has all the stuff at her house, is what she's saying. And she wants you to get a hold of her because she wants to sell it all. And I'm like, "Cool." My wife, Tiff, is like, "Are you excited?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, I always, through the years, and if you've been collecting a long time, I'm sure the same thing has happened to you. You always have a friend or a friend of a friend say they have a collection and it's worth so much. And man, you end up seeing it and it's just junk. So I told my wife, I'm like, "I'm definitely not excited till I see what it is." I'm like, "But it has some potential." And so I lined up some funds just in case it was a large deal or a large transaction. I had to make sure that I kind of had the things in place to drop some coin if I needed. So we went there, knocked on the door, walked in the house, beautiful house. And she walked us out to the back by the pool, and she had three like poker tables, like just the square ones, probably like 4 by 4. That's it. And instantly, I'm like, "This is gonna suck." Um, we used to have a hockey team here in the area called the Fresno Falcons, and there was a couple giveaway hockey sticks that were signed by 20, 30 people. There was a bunch of 1997 Dunruh Studio 8x10s. You remember the gray ones? It was like dark gray and light gray background. And they were all football. And then I seen some books and I think they were called headliners. They were little plastic figures of like Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, Alex Rodriguez, guys like that. They didn't bobblehead or anything, but they were little statues, and they were all still in the packaging. What else? What else? There was like a gift box, collector box of NASCAR, like action-packed box that was still sealed, and it was like you could see kind of the cards in there. And so I'm kind of setting the scene. I know I'm all over the place. And then there was a 3-inch binder that it was full, and I couldn't tell what was in it right away. And so she goes on to tell me that her parents had the shop and all this. And so I walk up to the first table, and the first thing I see is 2 Brett Favre signed 8x10s and a Daryl LaMonica signed 8x10. And automatically I'm like, those are fake. No doubt about it. I'm not like an authentication expert. I do collect autographs a lot. I have been running Slab City for PSA DNA authentications for over 7 years now. So I've seen my fair share of autographs. I've seen my fair share of cards come back that PSA deems not authentic. So I just kind of have an eye. And I'm like, those are not real. And as I'm looking through everything, she's like, "Yeah, and everything has a certificate of authenticity and blah, blah, blah." Well, if you've been in the game long enough, you remember in the late 90s, every card shop you went to had a certificate of authenticity, like somebody printed out on a Word document. You know, Doug in accounting, he printed out a certificate of authenticity. Um, and so on the back of all of these page protectors, there were all these certificates of authenticity. They were all signed by different people, and they all looked different. And I started flipping through the binder and quickly realized it was all signed photos, and they were all fake. Every single freaking one of them were fake. Um, and the only thing that wasn't fake, there was a Shannon Sharp that I think it was like a Zenith 8x10. You know, back in the late 90s, a lot of the products went through this phase where they had like 8x10s, hence like the Unruh Studio ones I was just talking about. And it was signed, and the only reason it was real was because it came out of a pack like that. And matter of fact, it was the only one without a certificate of authenticity. And so as I'm going through, she's like, you know, I don't know what Jim told you. That's my father-in-law. I don't know what Jim told you, but we're not really looking to move anything or sell anything. But he said you were a big-time collector and you would be able to kind of tell us what it's worth. But I already know, you know, what it's worth and all this. And the lady had no clue, man. No freaking clue what was going on. She went on to tell me how she had an $8,000 Princess Diana Beanie Baby and another $2,000 or $3,000 Beanie Baby. And her dad, because he owned a card shop, had a bunch of famous friends. We're in the Central Valley of California here, okay? Like, there's no major city within three hours of us. He had all these famous friends because he owned a card shop, and Sammy Davis Jr. gave him a suit, and it was worth $10,000, but it was depreciating in value because the suit was starting to fall apart and all this. And she's trying to, I don't know, like impress me with her knowledge or show me what she has. And then she showed me like a Frank Sinatra book. She's like, this one is $2,000. I just looked it up. And my uncle owns a bookshop, and he collects books and sells signed books and so on. So I know a little bit about books. So I looked through the book, and the dust jacket is beat to shit. It's not a first edition. It's not signed. I'm like, dude, how in the hell is this? Like, this lady has absolutely lost her mind. And she goes on to tell me that the reason she doesn't want to sell anything is because this is the stuff that's going to put her daughters through college. And I'm like, man, I don't know if this makes me a terrible person or what, but I just did not have the heart to tell her that all of this is fake. And like, honestly, and this is on both tables, she'd be lucky to get if someone came in and gave her a $100 bill for everything. And they would be overpaying. So I told her, I was like, you know, there's these companies out there, Professional Sports Authenticator, James Spence Authentication, Beckett Authentication. I'm like, you can mail your stuff to them and get it professionally authenticated. I'm like, no serious collector is going to buy any of this stuff without a reputable third-party authenticator authenticating these autographs. And she's like, oh, I know. My daughters can do that when I give it to them. And so that's kind of how it ended. And the reason I wanted to shoot this video isn't because of the average people that watch my videos. It's kind of for those people that have binders or collections in their house or at their mom's house from when they were a kid in the 90s. That's what we always call the junk wax era. And what happened was there was such demand for sports cards that all of these companies, the printing presses just never stopped. I mean, they just made cards and cards, and they just threw so much junk out there, and people hoarded it until there was more supply than there was demand. And so I would say 90-95% of that stuff isn't worth crap. And then the stuff that is worth something, you know, you have to get authenticated and slabbed. And when I say that, once again, this isn't for the average guy that watches my channel. You have to send it in to a company, and they'll put a numerical grade on it, being 1 to 10, and the stuff from the junk wax era that is worth something is typically slabbed and authenticated. This one's by PSA. So before you go planning your children's future and college and paying for their weddings or your retirement based off what you feel you have, please, please, please talk to someone that has some education on the hobby and memorabilia and autographs and sports cards and beanie babies and pogs, whatever. You would be surprised what stuff is not worth and what other stuff might be worth. They have like wrestling action figures. You remember the rubber ones? I'm almost 40. The rubber ones from when we were kids, they were called LJNs. You know, they were like stiff as could be. They didn't move because they were solid rubber. Like some of those are worth big money. And you wouldn't even know. You would think they were just toys. I've been to garage sales where they're selling them for $1 or 50 cents a piece, and it might be $100, $200 figure. So before you go making big time plans for your future, your children's future, please, please, please talk to someone that knows what they're doing. And for that matter, if they're quick to give you a price and give you a number, you might want to get a second opinion or a third opinion because they might be trying to slick you. You might actually have something and they're trying to downplay it, saying you don't have anything, and give you $100 for something that might be worth $1,000, $2,000. So that's kind of my public service announcement in the story. I think through the years I've probably done that 10 to 20 times, and I've yet to come across a collection that was actually impressive, or me saying, man, you really have something here. So that's that. Till next time, adios, be safe, bye-bye. Doodles.